Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new Pick a Side live reaction. And we are here with Mr. John Tortorelli, Mr. Joel Dells, Drew, and Riv. Like I told you guys last episode, they have work in the morning, so they can't be on too late. We're going to try to get an in studio pod because we definitely got to talk about this series in person with that type of energy. But you know what it is. The Knicks take a 2-0 series lead on the Celtics. And there comes a point in time where you doubt something for so long, but the evidence is in front of you and it's undeniable. And the passion, the heart that has been on display with this Knicks team, winning every single road playoff game against the Pistons, winning both road playoff games against the Celtics, coming back from 220-point deficits, the first time a team in NBA history has ever done that. It's undeniable. I have fully bought in and I am a believer in what this team has going on. And Mr. Dells, I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart that everybody outside of biased Celtics fans understood how overrated Jayson Tatum was and how he didn't belong in the conversation with these other top players. Imagine if Luka Doncic, John, had 13 points in a playoff game. You want to know when is the last time he did that? Back in 2020 when he was still a young pup in the league. Jayson Tatum since 2022 has had 10 playoff games where he scored less than 16 points. That's more than Giannis, who only has one, and that was in a game where he played 10 minutes. That's more than Jokic. That's more than SGA. That's more than Luka, who has zero since 2022. And I want to shout out the Knicks for winning this game, for turning me into a believer, for making me have faith. I'm going to live in this moment as much as I possibly can. The series is not over just yet. I was so excited watching the ending of this game that I even shared it with my social media following and with you guys in the group chat first that I threw up on my clothes. That's how excited I was. And I have the pictures of it and it's very nasty. And I don't want to show it to you guys, but if you guys want me to, I will. I was that excited about the Knicks winning. And Mikal Bridges, somebody they laughed at for being acquired by the Knicks, 5 first-round picks. They laughed at him potentially stopping Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. The game-winning steal on Jaylen Brown in game one, the game-winning block on Jayson Tatum in game two. This fourth quarter, a fourth quarter where he showed up and had 14 points. Jalen Brunson showed up with 9 points, and Jayson Tatum went 1 for 5 in the fourth quarter. Talk about conditioning with other players, but don't want to bring it up with Jayson Tatum when he has been one of the most inefficient players in the fourth over the last 2 years. That is my spiel. I got what I had to get off. I am so proud of the New York Knicks and how they've come out in this series. 85% of teams that win their first 2 road games of the series and go up 2-0 end up winning the series. There's still a 15% chance that something does happen, but I'm all the way in. This team has proven me wrong. This team has shown me that they are capable. In game one, we might have had great performances, but game two, I thought the Knicks didn't play good basketball at all, and they still ended up winning. And the conclusion that I came to when I was watching the game and after they concluded was the reason why the Celtics are struggling this much, Mr. Downs, is because they ain't seen a team like the New York Knicks in the playoffs in the last 2 years. They ain't seen a team as good as us. They ain't seen a team as hungry as us. We saved all of our great play in the fourth quarter for the postseason when it mattered most. They used that record in the regular season about how we were terrible against good teams, against the top of the top teams. We saved those moments for the postseason, and it's showing its head, and I couldn't be prouder. And right now, Dels, I know you're panicking. I know you're scared.
Not at all. John, do you have any thoughts?
Dallas, I think you should go first.
Okay, no, it's no problem. Just you're one of my favorite people on this planet, John. So I want to make sure you get your proper time to talk about whatever you want to talk about. We could talk about your Nuggets too, John. I mean, that 50-point loss. Tough L tonight. Tough L tonight. Jayson Tatum was awful tonight. I thought Jayson Tatum. This was one of his worst games I have seen in a long time. What was that stat you mentioned, Joel? How was it? How many games since 2022? He's dropped less than 16?
10 games.
10 games since what was that, 2022?
Yes.
Word, yeah. Probably played in the most games by far since then. But nonetheless, Jayson Tatum has his stinkers offensively, struggles to score sometimes offensively. It's disappointing because this was, in my opinion, Jayson Tatum's best regular season. This was, in my opinion, going against the Knicks specifically in the regular season, probably the most comfortable I have ever seen Jayson Tatum against anybody throughout his entire career. Those 4 games that he played in this regular season, averaging 35 points against the Knicks, getting switches onto Cat and Jalen Brunson and being able to take them off the dribble, blow by them with one step, or stepping back and hitting threes. He was a 37 or some percent 3-point shooter against the Knicks, which is higher than like the 34-ish that he was for the regular season against, all the other teams. But this was a terrible loss. Back-to-back 20-point leads. Not just you go up 20 in the second quarter or a bad first quarter, and then the Knicks climb back. It's a 7-point game at halftime. In third quarter, it's tight. They were up 20 in both of these games. This most recent game, they were up 20 with 3 or 4 minutes to go. And even when they were up 20, I wasn't relaxed because, of course, I saw what happened in game 1. I saw the Boston Celtics go up 20. I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a nice 5-game series. Boston's gonna handle New York because that's what they've done for the last 2 years, win 8 of 9 in the regular season. And that's just what they do. That's all I've known. It's just the Boston Celtics the last couple of years owning the New York Knicks. But what I've seen these last 2 games has been a credit to the New York Knicks, credit to Jalen Brunson, a credit to Cat, to Mikal Bridges, because I think we're going to talk a lot about Tatum and Brown, the Celtics. I think, we could talk about that ad nauseum, and we will, and I'll no problem bashing them because I think they played terrible, especially in these second halves. But the way Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns have been able to defend in this series is really what's been able to stick out to me. This was a duo that in the regular season, really against everybody, but specifically against the Celtics, struggled mightily. You think about those games that we've had on prime time where that OG Anunoby is originally guarding Jayson Tatum. You get a screen set on Drew, right? Brunson comes in, the big man who's on Cat. All right, now it's a Brunson and Cat pick and roll. Jayson Tatum blow by, step back, or you want to dish it off when someone brings help, and it's been easy. In the playoffs, it's been everything but that. When Jayson Tatum's had those opportunities to go one-on-one against Cat or Jalen Brunson, they've been stifling him. They've been giving him no room. He has not been able to, number one, post up. Jalen Brunson, he's got like 8-9 inches on the guy, has not been able to post up on him and get to the rim against him. Hasn't really been able to make any sort of moves on Karl Anthony Towns, whether that's blowing by him or, again, being able to bait him in some sort of handle where he could find and fire off a great three-point attempt. But those 2 guys have been playing excellent defense in the series, right? I think we banked on OG Anunoby for sure being a great defender, and he has been, as we expected. Mikal Bridges, who was a little up and down the regular season, has been kind of the story these last 2 games, right? In game 1, he doesn't have the most impressive box score, 9 points, but had some big buckets in overtime. Had some, of course, the big defensive possession you mentioned, Joel. And then this game, he doesn't have a bucket until the fourth quarter, and he scores 14 points in the fourth quarter. It wasn't for Mikal Bridges, the Knicks don't win this game. They probably don't win either of these games. That's how impactful Mikal Bridges has been. So I think the Knicks deserve, just all the credit in the world because you guys, everybody, the Celtics were minus 900. Nobody even gave these guys a chance. And I think deservedly, what we saw in the regular season was not only are the Boston Celtics the better team, but head-to-head matchups, the Boston Celtics have owned the New York Knicks. So I don't blame anybody for believing in Boston and what they've been doing. Real quick, though, to talk about the Celtics, because I wanted to make sure I gave the Knicks praise first, because I think that's where it really starts. Jayson Tatum has to be better. I think that's where it starts. Jayson Tatum has to be better. 23 points in game 1. He finishes with 16 or 13, something like that, points
13
this game. And outside the third quarter, he really didn't do anything. He scored like 7 points in the third quarter. First half, 2 points. Fourth quarter, I believe 4 points, I want to say. It was ugly, and it was really bad. And game 1, I just felt like Tatum's shot was off. I just felt like Tatum just was not able to see the ball through the bucket. This game, I felt like he was in his head. This game looks like he had been looking on social media and seeing all the narratives out there about what just happened in game 1, about all the three-point shots, not getting down to the rim, settling too much, because I saw multiple times where Tatum would come off the screen, he would have the pull-up 3, and he didn't want it. I saw multiple times where Tatum could have been aggressive and had opportunities to go one-on-one, and he was passive and gave it off to a guy like Jaylen Brown, who had a great first half. So I thought overall he just looked really in his head. The handle was super loose too, something I feel like I haven't seen from him in a while. I thought defensively he was fine, but just scoring the basketball, man, it was really, really tough to watch. He missed a couple of layups at the rim too. The 3-point shot has been ugly this entire series. And of course, we have multiple years of history now with Jayson Tatum's 3-point shot falling off. I believe he's a 31% 3-point shooter over these last 3 playoffs. So not something you're expecting for a guy that's around, a 35-ish 3-point shooter in the regular season. So that 4% when you're shooting, damn near 10 a game in the regular season, that matters a ton. But I think it does go deeper than just Tatum. Of course, it like starts with him, right? Like he's the number one guy. He deserves all the blame. But the Celtics as a collective have just been choking down the stretch. If you look at this past game in the fourth quarter, they were 5 for 24 in the fourth, 21%. They went 8 minutes or 14 straight shots without making any buckets. We're talking about nobody on the team has made more than 2 field goals in the fourth quarter of this series. Nobody. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Tatum included. Nobody has made more than 2 field goals. You know how insane that is? Do you know how terrible you have to be? Do you know how badly you have to choke to play 24 minutes in the playoffs and nobody makes more than 2 field goals? I don't even know what to think. Like, part of me still really believes in Boston, right? You're down 2-0. Part of me really believes in Boston. And that's why I'm like, I'm not super overreacting. The other part of me, I almost can't believe what I'm seeing. Like, I feel like what I'm seeing is a hologram of a team that I've been watching the entire year. I feel like what I'm watching right now is not the Boston Celtics that I've watched for these 80 plus games in the first round in the regular season. It feels like you got duplicates out there. You got, I don't even know. Like, I'm at a loss for words for what this Boston team looks like when they go up 20 points. They go up 20 and they can't make buckets. They shoot under 30% from the field, under 20% from 3. And if you would have said, how does New York win this series, right? Like, at the beginning of the series, I know I wasn't there, so I'm not sure how in depth you guys went, but if you would have said, how does New York win this series? I think it's 2 things. Number one, Boston Celtics cannot hit a 3, and that's what we've seen. 25% back-to-back games. They're 25 for 90, I want to say, in this series. And number 2 is Jayson Tatum just does not show up. Jayson Tatum gets outplayed by multiple players on the New York Knicks. If those 2 things happen, the New York Knicks can win this series. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a Boston team that, goddamn, if they were in the ocean, they could not throw a damn ball into that ocean. And we see Jayson Tatum. This isn't even a version of Jayson Tatum I've seen recently. Like, not even finals Jayson Tatum had back-to-back games this poor. So it's 2-0, down 2-0. You're going back to MSG. What else to say? Game 3 is a must win. You lose game 3, the series is basically over. You win game 3. They've been a great team on the road. You get some life in you, but you got to be better down the stretch. And I also thought, that last possession, call a timeout. That was a offensive possession that was going nowhere. The spacing was weird. Everyone was standing around and watching. Of course, Tatum, terrible decision with the ball. So it's not like Missoula calls a timeout, everything gets fixed. But hindsight being 2020, wish you would have called a timeout, try to draw up some sort of play to either get Tatum, Brown, White, one of these guys a good look. But right now, Knicks fans are happy. You should be happy. You're up 2-0 in a series that nobody even gave you a glimmer of hope in. You got to win 2 more. And this Boston team, I'll tell you one thing right now, they're due. They're due to hit some shots. Tatum's due for a 30 ball, man. So I'm not giving up just yet. I still got faith these guys can bring it around.
Yeah, when we talk about game 2, I felt like this was a total repeat of game 1, where on one side, the Celtics go into the second half of this game up 50-41, and it seems like in the third quarter they start to pull away with the 20-point lead. But really in these first 2 games, what showed the most is that, one, the Celtics at home this year have been worse than what they are on the road. They're 28-13 this year at home, 33-8 on the road. And it seems like in both fourth quarters, they've left their foot off the gas and continue to take a lot of shots in 3-point land, where today, in the fourth quarter of this game, they go 5 of 24 from the field and 2 of 11 from 3. And like you highlighted, Mikal Bridges in these first 2 games has been incredible defensively. And after starting this game 0 of 8 from the field, in the fourth quarter, he hits 3 straight set shots, goes 6 of 10. And with Jalen Brunson, they completely outdueled Jayson Tatum in the fourth quarter of this game. The Celtics had a chance to win 91-90. All he needs is one shot. Tatum for the win looks clueless. Cannot get his own shot up, turns over the ball. And I think that, to me, just highlights a couple of different things. One, I think with the game on the line, I don't trust Jayson Tatum to go ahead. But secondly, I do think for Boston that you're starting to see how difficult it is to repeat, which has been a consistent theme with so many teams through the years. You've got Kristaps Porzingis coming off the bench today. He plays 13 minutes, was a -9, and really did not look like the player that he was nearly when he came back last year in the finals. And on top of that, Derek White in these first two games has struggled from three, and Drew Holiday was exceptional last postseason. But with another year of wear and tear, I think him and Al Horford are regressing more so than what they were. And last year, they were both incredible for you guys. So I feel like for Boston, the clock is ticking because you go down to 0-2, it almost doesn't matter how great of a road team you are. I felt like in this moment today in the fourth quarter, it was a call for Jayson Tatum to step up and tie this series at one apiece. And that moment really encapsulates just how much pressure is on Boston because this Knicks team right now is playing, even when the shots aren't going well, at a true contender level. And everything is coming together with Mitch off the bench, Deuce McBride game good minutes today. The bench is starting to play a lot better. And it feels like New York has found a formula with Cat playing so well on the glass. And of course, Tatum hasn't been able to take advantage of him on switches either. So I feel like right now, if you're a Knicks fan, you should be as high as a kite because it does feel like you guys have more than a puncher's chance. You guys can win the series.
And that's how I'm feeling right now, John. And there's a saying when a team that historically hasn't won much starts to win, act like you've been here before. And that's how I've been acting. Like I've been here before, even killed. I root for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, so I know what winning is like. Right now, how I feel about the Knicks is they're up 2-0. There's a lot of reasons to be excited, but the job is not finished just yet. Because I remember last year when they were up 2-0 against the Pacers, and the Pacers ended up winning that series in 7 games. Now, New York did break down with injuries in that series, but still, we looked like the better team. We had control of that series, and we ended up losing. And that should be the message in the locker room. Hey, listen, last year, the same thing happened in the second round, and we didn't get over the hump. I want to see the first Eastern Conference Finals appearance in my lifetime that I've been able to consciously watch basketball, because with Carmelo Anthony, we didn't do it, and we haven't done it so far in this Brunson-led era. The way I feel about the Knicks and how they've been playing, the offense hasn't really figured itself out outside of the fourth quarter. In the third quarter, through 3 quarters, we've been very sluggish. In the fourth quarter, we figured it out. And in the Pistons series, it was much of the same. Right now, we have some magic sauce in the fourth quarter where we're just playing lights out. But defensively throughout the game, I understand Boston is missing a lot of shots. The Knicks also are missing a lot of shots too. You look at the Celtics, they shot 25% from 3. The Knicks shot 29% from 3, 43% from the field. So it's not like we're playing all that great either. They are doing such a great job at helping everybody on the court defensively. When Brunson or Cat, they do get on those switches. You see OG and Mikal filling the gaps. You see Josh Hart giving that extra effort. And what I've been noticing, even dating back to the first game of the series, is that all those 3-point shots that you usually feel like goes down for Boston, there's always a secondary effort made by the Knicks to get a hand up, to get a contest, to make sure it's a tougher shot. The way the Knicks are playing with this type of energy, this type of defensive tenacity and effort is the way they have to play to beat the defending champs. And right now, the biggest thing I'm torn on is if I'm going to go to game 3 or game 4 to MSG. I'm going to one of the games. It just depends on which one I'm going to.
Couple other numbers I want to throw out here just to highlight how great Cat and Brunson has been. Shout out to great man Carson. Shout out to Nerd Sesh. He is a great man. During the regular season, when Boston ran pick and roll involving Cat, they generated 1.22 points per possession. And just as a barometer, if you're at 1 point possession, that's pretty damn good. 1.2 is pretty exceptional. When they involved Jalen Brunson, again, in pick and roll or isolation, they generated 1.29 points per possession. Again, phenomenal. In the postseason, when they've involved Cat in pick and roll or isolation, 0.75 points per possession. And when you're involving Jalen Brunson, 0.93 points per possession. So I think both of those individual performances by those two guys have been, I don't want to say overlooked because I think people are talking about their defense, but is probably one of the biggest reasons why the New York Knicks are up 2-0 is because we saw in the regular season when things go left for Boston against New York, we could just get into these actions where we could pick on Cat and pick on Jalen Brunson. That's an easy way to generate offense if the threes aren't falling, for example. But in this series, that hasn't been the case. Another stat I have here. Once Boston had that 20-point lead, which was 3 minutes and 12 seconds left in the third quarter, they went 5 for 28 from the field, which is under 18%. And they went 2 for 14 from three, which is 14%. Also had 6 turnovers in about 15 minutes of game time. It's hard to blow a 20-point lead with 15 minutes. This is the type of shit you have to do. You have to play some of your worst basketball of the season, some of the worst basketball that realistically I've seen in the Jays era, in the Joe Mazzulla era. This feels like, the 2022 version of these guys where Jayson Tatum's 23 years old, Brown's 24. And although they've had playoff moments and they've had experiences, they made these ECF runs, they give up these big leads, right? We saw that a ton with Ime, especially in that first half of the regular season where the Celtics, are floating around 500 before the trade deadline, before they go on that run. It feels like the younger version of the Celtics that were giving up leads every single game, it felt like. And this version you haven't seen from recently, right? I think about last season going up against the Pacers. We were the team that were making the comebacks. We were the team that in the clutch were making the big plays, whether it's a Jaylen Brown 3-point shot, whether it's stealing the inbound pass. I think about the NBA Finals where the Celtics are up 20 points against the Dallas Mavericks and they cut the lead to 2 points or 4 points, but you find possessions. I think of Jaylen Brown's shot right around the free throw line to put that game up about 4 with like 30 seconds left. They were the ones making the big shots, making the big offensive and defensive plays. And in this series, it's been nothing but the opposite. It's been the New York Knicks stepping up in the biggest moments. It's been Jalen Brunson being and showing why he's the clutch player of the year. It's Mikal Bridges. It's in game one. It was Josh Hart. In game two, it's OG Anunoby, or maybe I'm thinking that backwards. Regardless, it's these role players that are stepping up and hitting the big shots. And the last thing I'll say about this game, and probably not the last thing because I'm sure we'll talk about it some more, but I think people are overreacting a bit to Boston. Not in like they're going to win the series. Like if you think the Knicks will win the series, I think you deserve to think that. I think they might be favorites right now, but in the sense of like, oh, they shoot too many threes. They can't, eventually it's going to come back and bite you. I get it. It's easy to say that when you have back-to-back games shooting 25%. What I've seen from Boston for 3 years is nobody has won more than them. Since Joe Mazzulla took over and really has embraced this Mazzulla ball, nobody's won more than the Celtics. You have a championship, you have multiple number one seeds, or excuse me, I guess multiple number two seeds, number one seed. Nobody has won more than them playing this way of basketball. I mentioned it in yesterday's or 2 days ago, our live stream. 6% of their games, they shot under 30% from three. And they just had back-to-back games where they shot 25%. So they're in a really bad shooting slump. And some of that you credit to the Knicks because, I agree, Joel, you're making some good late contests. You're rotating well. Some of them, though, are wide open, like Jayson Tatum in the corner, wide open from three. You missed. Jaylen Brown had a couple of times where he had wide open looks and just missed. Eric White, I mean, you gave credit to the Knicks, but I also say, you shoot 31% in a couple of these games. You probably win the 2 games. Make or miss the league. Celtics haven't been making them. I hope they turn it around, though, because I would hate to lose the New York Knicks.
See, my connection went out for a little bit, but I'm back now. It's the universal sound of making sure that I come and check you on that disrespect with the Knicks that you were just mentioning right there.
I didn't disrespect the Knicks.
It's not an overreaction, Dels, how people are reacting to the Celtics, because the truth of the matter is that last year, statistically, they had the easiest path to the finals in NBA history. Statistically, by the amount of injuries they faced, the win percentage. Yes, they still won an NBA championship, but this time around, they're facing a real threat. They're facing the New York Knicks. That's who they're facing. And if they advance, they're going to face the Indiana Pacers, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're also a tough out. And then in the finals, possibly OKC Thunder or Anthony Edwards out there with the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's who they're going to face. So I think the Celtics are just running into their best challenge yet. And when their back has been against the wall, we have seen routinely in the past that the Celtics aren't a great team in close game situations, and they tend to have a tendency of crumbling. Oh, well, I don't, because Jayson Tatum last year in the fourth quarter was awful, and then the year before that, he shot 19% from three in the fourth quarter. So,
if you want to talk about Jayson Tatum, that's fine. But the Celtics as a team, I think about 2022, you go down 3-2 to the Milwaukee Bucks, you blow Game 5 with a huge lead, you come back and win that series. I think about last year against the Indiana Pacers, where you come back from 17 down the third quarter, you win that game. You're down 3 points with 7 seconds left against against the Pacers, you take
Halliburton played in
overtime
one
and win.
game.
Huh?
Halliburton played in one game in the ECF.
No, okay. Well, he played in that game one. I'm not saying that the Celtics didn't have an easy path last year. They did. They also beat the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games, who you thought were going to win that series. Who we'll just ignore that part.
And Luka was hurt, and Kyrie was injured. I mean, Kyrie didn't play well. He played like he was injured.
But I disagree. Like, if you want to say Tatum, the numbers do say that. But I also look at, the times where they have been down 3-2 against the 76ers, against the Milwaukee Bucks, close situational games in the playoffs over these last couple of years. And they've won more than they lost. It's just these 2 games they have lost.
I feel like what it really comes down to is when you look at the Knicks in the regular season and when you look at them through these first couple of games, it feels like the Pistons series kind of helped them flip a switch physically. And on the defensive end, where Mikal Bridges in the regular season was not defending at a all defensive caliber level, when you watch these first few games, it's clear to me Jaylen Brown's been uncomfortable off the dribble at times when he's got multiple wing defenders who have the length and physicality to stay in front of him. And on top of that, I think an overlooked aspect of the Celtics right now is that Brown was dealing with a knee injury, which you could kind of see a little bit more in the last round, where he's playing less minutes. And when you watch the Knicks in the fourth quarter of these games, you have Mitchell Robinson switching, holding his own on Tatum. And then once he's immediately kicking out, you have the trio of those 3 wings, Hart, Mikal, and OG, who can play into the ball. And I feel like at some point, the Celtics are going to be able to match that physicality, especially off the dribble. I think they should utilize Drew Holiday more as a role man and kind of try to diversify their scoring with more inside the arc. But I feel like when I'm watching these first few games, the biggest takeaway for me is the simple fact that the Knicks are playing more physical and harder. And I feel like in these games where they're both shooting very poorly, you're not really getting into any consistent offense. This game was 91-90. It comes down to the team that's putting more pressure on the ball. And when you look at the Celtics last year, that was a bit of a question with Jaylen Brown. They're able to answer that in the finals. But I think right now it's a testament to Mikal Bridges defending at that same level you saw in Phoenix back when they went to the finals. And you pair that with OG Anunoby tonight, had 5 stocks, 4 steals, 1 block. Even a night where he's going 2 of 9 from the field, you still feel like possession by possession, they're wearing these Celtics wings down. And there's something to a deep finals run where you have a shorter offseason than everybody else. And 9-10 months ago, they're in the finals. And now they're going up against another long, tough physical defense. And I think it's really a testament to New York and Tom Thibodeau being able to flip a switch that a lot of us didn't think a couple of days ago before game 1 that they were going to be able to.
And now here's the thing. And Jayson Tatum has done a lot of winning in his career. And I think the resume that he's accumulated is very impressive. You can measure it to a lot of all-time greats. And there is a chance he can end his career. And we're going to look back on that resume and say, he's one of the 20 best players ever. I think Tatum has that type of potential. That's number one. That's what I'm going to say right now, just to give Tatum that props. In the same breath,
but
winning doesn't make you a better player than somebody. There's a reason why Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl. He won Super Bowl MVP. Tatum didn't even win Finals MVP. Jalen Hurts did. He won his MVP for his big game. I don't think he's better than Lamar Jackson. I don't think he's better than Josh Allen, because winning doesn't mean you're automatically better than other great players and other players that are at the upper echelon. The truth is, Tatum has never finished top 3 in MVP voting. He hasn't had the same superstar caliber seasons in the regular season as an SGA or a Jokic, as a Giannis, as a Luka Doncic. And in the playoffs, this is my critique with you, Dels, about after the Lakers lost the series, you came up here and made this grandstanding stance on Luka Doncic needed to get into better condition for the Lakers to win a championship, although we saw all the roster flaws that they had. And he had a team in Dallas built around him perfectly, and he got ripped away from that situation when he finally had a great situation. Luka Doncic, despite all the question marks you might have about his conditioning, is a 30 points per game guaranteed guy in the playoffs. That's a fact. He's second all-time in points per game in the playoffs. He has led a team to the finals. He has led a team to the conference finals that is a very underwhelming roster. And when I look at Jayson Tatum, look at over the past 3 years, his numbers, his inefficiencies, his tendency to not show up in the fourth quarter, I just don't understand how you can have a grandstanding take about Luka Doncic and his woes, but we see Tatum through 2 games in this series, and is, oh, it's fine. It's bound to get better. Oh, he's rebounding. Oh, he's playing defense. The game of basketball is about putting the ball in the hole. It's about getting buckets. At the end of the day, you could rebound, you could defend. We remember Michael Jordan's shot. We don't remember Dennis Rodman's rebounds. Tatum is a superstar. He's supposed to hit those big time shots. And Luka, he hit those big time shots against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. Jayson Tatum in the fourth quarter, he hasn't shown up in the last two playoffs. And all the criticism last year about his inefficiencies, they were warranted. And people feel like it was all out of thin air, but they were warranted. So for me, I want to see Tatum actually prove he could be that guy. And I know he won a championship, but that to me is more due to how elite the roster was, how great Brad Stevens was able to construct a roster. It was so great top to bottom. It was the best roster in the league. So to me, Tatum has to be the elevator. And he had a great series against the Orlando Magic. But in the first two games of this series, Jalen Brunson has been the best player in this series.
Yeah, and I don't even think Jalen Brunson's really played up to his standard either. Like, he's been great in these fourth quarters, but a big reason why the Knicks have been down through three is for the first three quarters, he hasn't been, all worldly. He hasn't been the real engine that we've seen. But of course, he's come alive in these last two fourth quarters. I'm not trying to take a shot or anything, just what I'm seeing. I think it's more than just getting buckets. Jayson Tatum, 2-3 years ago did average 39 and 5 and fourth in MVP, not top three, fourth in MVP. So, he
Luka
comes
does that in the
last 2
playoffs.
years. Huh?
Luka does that in the playoffs for his career.
No, yeah, he definitely, Tatum has averaged 27, 25. He's averaging 30 right now in these playoffs. I guess this last game's not included, so maybe he's at like 27. So not 30, but close. And we've looked at Tatum and Luka's numbers over the last 3 years, and their efficiency is awfully similar. I wanted to say Luka was around like 57% true shooting, Tatum around 56. I don't remember off the top of my head. You could maybe fact check, but
surely they had the same supporting cast.
It was awfully close. I remember looking that up and finding that very interesting. But I do think, getting buckets is obviously important. I don't think it's the end all be all. I think if the end all be all is getting buckets, a lot of other guys would win championships, right? James Harden would probably have 3 rings if it was just about getting buckets. You know what I mean? There'd be a lot of guys.
Joel ran into the KD Warriors.
It's tough. If it's just about getting buckets, a lot of guys would have championships right now. But I think it's more than that. And of course, Jayson Tatum has to do better than that. Last season, specifically in the finals, he was super inefficient, only averaged around 20 points per game. Of course, his first finals wasn't great. But he does bring a lot of other things. I'm not going to sit here and this is not the time to be like, well, he's a great defender and a great rebounder and a great playmaker. This is not the time to do that. But I do think it's more than just getting buckets. I mean, every time a guy, I'm just looking just real quick off the cuff, like who wins the scoring title. Not a lot of these guys win the championship the year they win the scoring title. I'm looking at maybe Shea does it this year, Luka last year, Embiid back-to-back, Steph in 2020, Harden for 3 straight years. These guys aren't winning championships. You need a team around you. You need to be able to be great at multiple different things. Jayson Tatum has to get more consistent as a scorer. He has to get out of his head. Like I mentioned, I really felt like this game, it was more mental than anything. Like I thought he had some good looks that he just straight up missed. So enough with the excuses. You got to go out and do it.
You mentioned Steph Curry. Now it's a perfect comparison. He's one of the best offensive engines in basketball. He doesn't offer Tatum's rebounding or Tatum's defense, but what separates him is he's one of the best offensive engines in history of basketball.
Yeah.
I think Luka is one of the best offensive engines in the history of basketball as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly up there. I think Curry has shown throughout his career to become a really underrated defender. He's someone that gives a ton of effort and doesn't let you just like blow by you consistently. I think that's the one area that Luka, if he's able to have the progression that Curry has, in recent years where Curry's undersized, but Luka more just slow-footed. If he's able to just put in the effort and become a passable defender, yeah, absolutely. But we saw last year in the finals, like Luka averaged 30, but we also saw in the fourth quarter, Boston picked on him every single time, and that was the reason why they were able to get some buckets.
Now, the other big game that happened was that OKC blew out the Denver Nuggets. They might be the only team that has really shown up in game 2 amongst the favorites, and they've really handled business. I think this was a statement game. Like, okay, everybody shut up now. We're fine. J-Dub press conference, don't overreact to that too much. We're good. We have to see if Minnesota tomorrow wins their game 2 game. Steph Curry is probably going to be out for a week or 2, which is huge for them and their outlook for the series, and bad news for the Warriors. But the way that Buddy Hield played and Jimmy Butler played and Draymond played, Minnesota definitely has to come out firing, and they can't let their foot off the gas. but this was a very impressive showing from OKC to really just obliterate Denver out the water.
Yeah, it felt like a complete different story than game one, where it was ugly for the Nuggets, but they were able to problem solve in the second half. And this game was a lot different because the Nuggets gave up 40 points in the first quarter, and it felt like coming off an emotional winning game one, they didn't have the same focus or concentration. They had 20 turnovers, 18 in game one, and you can't win sustainably in today's NBA if you're going to be turning over the ball that much. I also feel like for Denver, they struggled to finish at the rim. They shot 36% on 2-pointers, and actually a lot better from 3-point land for the day. And when you look at the Thunder in game one compared to game two, today the ball movement was way better. They're able to run a lot of offense. So Isaiah Hartenstein had 5 assists. Shea had 5 in the first quarter. And with Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams playing a lot better today off the ball, it felt like Denver just couldn't stay in front, and they were getting a lot of open looks consistently. Lou Dort was cold in game one to start. Today he gets going, hits 2 threes in the first quarter. And from there, the dam just broke completely. But I feel like in the big scheme, it really for Denver comes down to taking care of business at home. If they can win at least one of the 2 games, then the series can continue to build off of game one. But I feel like you highlight today, I mean, Oklahoma City got whatever they want offensively. And when you have as many turnovers leading to fast break points as Nuggets led up today, this series won't go the full month if they're going to be continuing to have as poor care. And a lot of this is Jokic too. He struggled today. It's probably his worst game in the postseason. And they're pressuring him consistently, whether it's Lou Dort guarding him or Jalen Williams with 3 or 4 hands waiting to help. So it wasn't the best game from Denver altogether, but at the end of the day, you're moving on to game 3 and the series is tied 1-1.
Yeah, I don't have any grand takeaways from this game. What the Thunder did is what I thought Boston was going to do. End of the first quarter, you're up 20 points, you cruise to victory. I didn't think maybe be up by 50 or 40 at one point, but this is the type of response you want to see from a team that is championship contenders, right? We talked a lot about on the live stream a couple nights ago, as well as yesterday's podcast, that this Thunder team is not proven, right? They haven't made that deep playoff run. They're going up against an experienced team, a physical team, a team that won the championship just 2 seasons ago. So what do you look like in the brightest lights, right? What do you look like when you need to have a game? And Shea said, you know what, I got this. I'll give you 34 and 11 of 13 shooting. J-Dub bounces back and 17 points, but efficient, 6 for 11. I mean, these guys ended up playing like 25 minutes apiece. It was a blowout quick. So not a ton of takeaways from it. But this is the level that OKC can get to, right? This is the level that we saw in the regular season, where they said on the broadcast, they only played 6 games this entire season that was decided by 3 points. Like, that is an insane level of dominance. So, yeah, it's not shocking that the first time in a big moment against the best player in the world looked a little shaky. But to bounce back in this way, I know we probably should give them more light for it, but the Knicks and Celtics are the big talking point here. That's what I expected from the Thunder. That's why I still had them win the series even after game one. I don't think it's going to look like this every night, but I still think they're the better team here.
We're going to get into super chats. Jay Greedo goes, what they going to say now, Joel? This is what dreams is made of. That's what they're going to say now.
What they going to say now, being up 2-0, man? What they going to say?
House money now, because the Knicks win the series. I'm over the moon. I'm overjoyous. If they lose, we gave it a fight, and we're close. House money, baby. You know,
just don't lose 4 straight.
No. I think it's if we lose this series, it'll go to 7. But I ain't even thinking that. Knicks in 6. LD goes, thanks, Steve Kerr, for that Olympic gold. Tatum mid. Maybe Tatum was onto something, given the way that Tatum has struggled in fourth quarters. Maybe it was a good thing he wasn't out there for Team USA in the biggest and brightest light moments. He might have cost Team USA a medal.
Still got a gold medal. I'll take it.
RJ the God goes, y'all can book it. Cavs and Celtics both tie the series when they go back home. You heard it here first. Okay.
Everyone does.
RJ the God. We're gonna keep you to that, brother. We're gonna see. Jay Clark goes, Joel, how do you feel about Mikal? He's been absolutely terrible for 90% of the series, but them fourth quarters have been magical. Before I answer this super chat, Jay Clark, number one, I appreciate you. And we have 727 live viewers in the chat right now. Make sure you guys are dropping a like on the stream, subscribing to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Now, Jay Clark has sent super chats in the past before, questioning my admiration for the Knicks, which I was not a big fan of, I will admit. And now he's asking me a question about how we feel about Mikal. He's including me into this. Okay, I see how it is now. All right, but I just want to let you know that I didn't forget. How I feel about Mikal, yes, he struggled, but he showed up when it mattered most. And that's something that Jayson Tatum failed to do. Not everybody is doing it at a high level, and Mikal Bridges is. So you have to appreciate him. And he shut down the Jays on the final possession. The help side block on Jayson Tatum, and then the steal on Jaylen Brown. It doesn't get any better than that. He's making winning plays, and that's all you can ask for.
Some guys are built for it.
Jay Wash goes, huge shout out to Dels for holding his team accountable and staying unbiased. That being said, Knicks in 4 and Luka clears Tatum. On a separate note, John, what are your thoughts on the Steelers after the trade? Shout out to
John.
PAS.
George Pickens is now a Dallas Cowboy for a 3rd round pick.
It's his basketball show, right?
First of all, Jonathan Mingo for a 4th, George Pickens for a 3rd. Kind of cancels out. Now I feel okay about it.
Well, number one, what are the Steelers thinking? I mean, the wide receiver core now looks terrible. Aaron Rodgers, is he gonna? He might retire at this point with that wide receiver core.
Now they're gonna trade for Allen Lazard.
Wow,
I would be very upset. I am very upset. Didn't plan to talk about this today, but here we go.
Yeah, John, real quick, is this the year Tomlin doesn't go over 500? It has to be. It has to be.
I'm so checked out after this trade. The Steelers had, for the longest time, a crippling need, which was inadequate talent in their weapons department. And this offseason, they solved it by acquiring DK Metcalf. And don't get me wrong, I wanted to see how things played out with DK and George Pickens together before kind of knowing what the long-term future was with GP. To make this trade without seeing the two of them play a single game together, and to make this move, which just puts you right back in the same position you're in a year ago, is painful because George Pickens is my favorite player on the team. He's also my favorite receiver in football, and now he's playing for the Dallas Cowboys, so I have a hard time rooting for him. And beyond all of those things, the trade package to me was not worth it to make this deal. I felt like at the end of the day, for as much behavior concerns as you may have about George Pickens, he is a stud receiver, and those just don't grow on trees. And for Pittsburgh, for the longest time, they have continued to be praised for being able to handle receivers who have maybe a quick temperament, maybe they're a bit impulsive, but they can never get them to a second contract. And I think that is an aggravating thing because Mike Tomlin's law is a culture builder and a culture raiser, and none of these receivers can actually stay long term. And at the end of the day, I felt like the talent with George Pickens was worth it for an extra year. Plus, you could have franchise tagged him after this 4th season. So it's heartbreaking, to be quite honest with you, because I feel like moving forward, he'll be better than DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf is 4 years older. He's going to make more money. And when you look at the last 2 years, they've been pretty much on the same level. Mm-hmm. And for DK, it's not like he's going to have JSM playing off of him. It's going to be Roman Wilson, who couldn't learn the playbook in year 1, and Calvin Austin. And I feel like the pressure on him is going to be pretty burdensome. Whereas if you had George Pickens across from him, it would relieve a lot of the pressure. I don't care if they're redundant fits. It's 2 stud receivers on each side of the field. You can figure that out with a halfway decent OC and a halfway decent quarterback. But Pittsburgh, man, they're gearing up to trade for a quarterback next year because they have 12 picks. But the last 2 times they trade up for Devin Bush and Broderick Jones. So I can't tell you I'm thrilled. And quite honestly, I'm checked out right now because I really had a belief in the front office, and this trade was a massive fuck you, I felt like, to the fans because they never even let GP and DK play together. And I feel like to trade a 2nd for DK and then get back a 3rd for George, when George is going to be better moving forward off of CD Lamb, I'm giving this trade like a D for Pittsburgh. I don't even give a shit about the grade. The Cowboys had a fucking home run. Congrats.
I thought the Cowboys,
Steelers remain.
It was great.
It was a great move.
Yeah.
The Steelers remain the team that trades receivers with the exception of Chase Claypool. He traded Deontay Johnson for nothing last year. He, of course, didn't have a great year this season, but I feel like you should have kept these receivers in-house after developing them. So for Dallas, you guys got a star, and I mean, it's looking up and up for you guys.
Here's the thing, John. I think George Pickens is a phenomenal talent, and in theory, he's a great fit next to CeeDee Lamb. And I think Dak Prescott having Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, he can have an MVP caliber season with the type of stats he can put up with those 2 players, especially with the much improved offensive line. With that being said, the Steelers have had a tendency to move off of skill position players a year too early and end up being right. Le'Veon Bell, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. All these players were very good at one point. Deontay Johnson, I thought he was excellent, and then he didn't end up doing anything else. And I think Pickens has more character and personality issues than all of those players. There is also a possibility that he plays some good games for the Cowboys and then he just blows up on them. We just don't know. I feel like the Steelers made a decision to move off of George Pickens because they just don't want to deal with him and they don't feel like his talent level is worth dealing with everything that comes with him. And last year he had a great start to the season, but then he kind of let his foot off the gas and he was pouting on the sideline and he wasn't playing his hardest. So, I mean, I don't know. So I understand Pickens is a great player, but I do disagree with the notion that wide receivers don't grow on trees because I think as of recently they have been growing on trees.
I get that, but if I could say one last thing, GP, his first healthy year, full 2 years off a torn ACL, had 1,140 yards at Kenny Pickett in Matt Canada. And this last year, he got hurt when he was having just as good of a season. That to me is why I feel like talents like him don't grow on trees. I think he's a rare X receiver, and that type of skill set can fit anywhere. And for him to be as productive as he was with 5 quarterbacks, he's going to be even better in Dallas.
Big Joe 312 super chat didn't make a comment. Maybe we found a comment.
Big Joe.
Jacob Fruity, do y'all think Steph was going to have a better series based off the 13 minutes he played before getting hurt? Yeah, he was playing phenomenal, and I think that Warriors pose a much different challenge than the Lakers, and I think the Timberwolves should be feeling a little bit relieved that they don't have to face a fully healthy Warriors team because the experience, the defensive scheme with Butler and Draymond in that zone, it's a much different challenge than the Lakers defense.
Yeah, Big Joe, if you're in here, I was trying to look for your comment, but if you're still in here, feel free to let us know what you want to ask. Yeah, I think like the Warriors obviously bring a different challenge than what the Lakers did, right? Like this is a team that Steph Curry is going to run around for 48 minutes and around 1,000 screens compared to the Lakers where, you know, Luka and Reeves and Braun, it's a lot more just isolation basketball. Them dropping game one was nuts. They should feel very fortunate that Steph Curry is going to be missing a majority of the series because, I mean, what did they score? 30 points in the first half? 33 points, was it? It was a really ugly performance. Of course, Ant struggled mightily. I don't think he had a bucket in that first half, came alive some in the second, but I was shocked. Once Steph went out, I was like, oh, you know, I don't really have to watch this game. Timberwolves, like Jimmy Butler and Spencer, like this is the guys that are going to get it done. And, you know, I'll be damned, they did it.
Kelda Menace goes, don't worry, Dells. We know how this ends. Celtics and 6.
I'm just thinking like they don't go out like this, right? Like no way they go out like this.
Yeah, there is a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And that's going to do it for our time here on this live stream. If you want to go to the Knicks talk, it's early in the podcast. The first 30 minutes is probably like all Knicks Celtics talk. So you guys can go there. And we're going to see when we record another live in studio podcast with all the guys. We'll see what's up with that. And we'll keep you guys updated. For everybody in the stream right now, 720 people, make sure you guys drop a like button for the algorithm.
Subscribe.
And if you want to support Prize Picks and support the Pick a Side podcast simultaneously, you go to Prize Picks and use code PAS. If you play $5, you get $50. It's really that simple. They have a lot of good promotions. Taco Tuesday, every Tuesday. They have a discount on a certain play, on a certain player, and whatever sport that they have going on there. So if you guys want to support the podcast even further and want to help us out and want to get us in better graces with our sponsors, then go to Prospects and use code PAS. That's going to do it for us. You can follow us on Twitter at PickSidePod, on Instagram and TikTok at PickSidePodcast. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.